Welcome to CircleYXE Online. My name is Austin, and we are so glad that you've joined us. In a few moments, we're going to sing a couple of songs, and Pastor Paul is continuing in our series, Who's in Charge, focusing this week on the emotion of envy. Before we do any of that, there are a couple of ways that you can engage with us as we get started. Let's start by seeing how you're doing this week. In the chat or comments, let us know how you're feeling using a number between 1 and 10. 1 being I'm feeling really anxious or I'm at my wit's end, and 10 being I'm having a great week. Let us know how you're feeling right now. If you're new to Circle, we want to welcome you here. We would love to connect with you and say hi. If you're watching this live, just click the connection card button at the top right of your screen or send us a message on Facebook. Before we hear some music, let's hear a message from our lead pastor, Eldon Bolt.
Hello, Circle family and online guests. Your staff and prayer team have been praying for your physical safety and protection on your health and finances. We have heard that some of you have lost your jobs during COVID-19. We want you to know we are praying for you. Others have increased hours in pay as you work in industries and services that are essential. We thank you, and we are praying for your safety. The church has also experienced financial challenges during this pandemic. In response, we've laid off half of our staff. The remaining staff has reduced hours and salary as we attempt to stay in contact with our church family. The services that we are offering online are the Sunday messages and music, counseling, children and family resources, virtual youth gatherings, small group support and discussion guides, Alpha Online. During these uncertain times, people have questions about the meaning of life, God, and their purpose in crisis. We are so encouraged by the interest of those who are seeking answers. More than 40 people gathered on Zoom Thursday night to discuss their questions. We pray they find comfort in God. In addition, our costs of operating the physical plant, such as online costs, utilities, insurance, all continue. I'm doing the favorite thing today and challenging you to consider a special donation over and above your regular giving to support your church and ministry. This could be a one-time gift or spread out over the next 4 months. Everything you donate will help us with the ongoing cost of operating and place us in a positive position when the government allows us to gather again. What a day that will be. All the instructions for donating are on the website. You can donate online, mail in a check, or transfer money directly from your bank. Thank you so much for your help during this unusual time. May God bless you as you give.
Thank you, Eldon, and thank you for your continued support of the work of Circle in our city. We are now going to sing a couple of songs together, so we'll send it to David and Darcy.
It's your heart we're searching for. We want you and nothing more. Let your glory fill this place. We're alive in your presence. It's your heart we're searching for. We want you and nothing more. Let your glory fill this place. We're alive in your presence. We surrender all to you. Do what you want to, do what you want to. God, we love to see you move. Do what you We are standing in your light, and our hearts are open wide. Let us see more than before. Lord, come have your way here. We surrender all to you. Do what you want to, do what you want to. God, we love to see you move. Do what you want to, do what you want to. All-consuming fire fall on us. 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 We surrender all to you. Do what you want to, do what you want to. God, we love to see you move. Do what you want to, do what you want to. We surrender all to you. Do what you want to, do what you want to. God, we love to see you move. Do what you want to, do what you want to. All-consuming fire fall on us. 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 I count on one thing. The same God that never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God who's never late is working all things out. You're working all things out. And yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. And yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy for all my days. Oh yes, I will. Count on one thing. The same God that never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God who's never late is working all things out. You're working all things out. And yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. And yes, I will bless your name. And yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy in all my days. Oh yes, I will for all my days. Oh yes, I will. And I choose to praise, to glorify, glorify, glorify the name of all names. And nothing can stand against, and I choose to praise, to glorify, glorify the name of all names. And nothing can stand against, and I choose to praise, to glorify, glorify the name of all names. And nothing can stand against, and I choose to praise, to glorify, glorify the name of all names. And nothing can stand against. Yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. And yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy in all my days. Oh yes, I will for all my days. Oh yes, I will for all my days. Oh yes, I will.
That was great. Thanks, David and Darcy. If you're just tuning in, welcome here. We are so glad that you've joined us. We are about to hear a message from Pastor Paul, but before we hear from him, would you join me as we pray? God, we thank you for today and that we can gather together digitally. Lord, would you lift up those that have been affected by this illness? Would you protect and provide during this time? We place our trust and hope in you. Amen.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us online. My name is Paul, and I'm one of the pastors here at Circle. Now, I don't know about you, but this new online world reality is not as exciting as I imagined it would be. I mean, sure, I caught up with some shows that people have recommended for me to watch, but if I'm honest, caught up really means I watched 15 to 20 minutes of something and I went back to watching The Office. I mean, isn't that what we all do? But if I'm really honest, what this time has done for me is that it has reminded me how much social media competes for my attention. It strives to pull me away from focus and even at times pulls me away from what is actually really necessary. The interesting part for me is that now when I can give full attention or more attention to social media, I actually find it lacking. I miss being with people. I miss connection. I miss community. I miss conversations. I miss seeing people's face in real time. I even miss meetings. Even before the pandemic started, social media wrestled for my attention, and it wrestled for your attention. And it would do it in really sneaky ways. What I mean is that social media has a way of dividing us into groups of people we want to belong to and people we are against. And we're against them along the lines of personal preferences, political views, social status. It divides us. Have you ever noticed that? Have you noticed that social media has created spaces for ideologies to rise up, to flare up, and create us versus them mentality? Or on the other hand, it creates a place where we feel we just don't measure up. Before I was on Instagram, I had no idea that everyone else had a curated, perfect lit morning with perfectly done hair, having full breakfast with locally sourced coffee, and of course, it was all vegan. It was perfect in every way. And there is, of course, my breakfast. Social media can kindle our envy through comparison, especially during this pandemic. Other people's productivity during this time can induce envy. It seems everyone is baking sourdough bread, taking up running, developing a new skill or craft, cleaning their basements, perfectly homeschooling their kids. And those of us who find it challenging to even get out of bed in the morning, or whose life is in isolation has been more work rather than more time, can feel the temptation to compare and become envious of others. Now, we have been talking about how emotions can take charge of us if we don't work on our hearts. Now, for clarity's sake, I want to emphasize that emotions are not good or bad. Emotions are the reactions of our heart, And the motivation behind these reactions is what we need to become aware of as we strive to become emotionally healthy and spiritually mature. Now, today I want us to look at a very important emotion. I want us to look at envy. Our foundational text for this whole series has been Mark 7, starting in verse 18. And in this passage, Jesus says, "Don't you see that nothing that enters a person from the outside can defile them? For it doesn't go to their heart, but goes into their stomach and then out of the body." Jesus explained and clarified this for the disciples, and he clarifies this for us, for his students. He goes on and he says, "What comes out of the person is what defiles them. For it is from within, out of the person's heart, that evil thoughts come." What comes out of our mouths comes from our heart. Isn't that powerful? And if it comes out of our hearts, if it comes out of our hearts and if it's unhealthy, immature, or unaware, it puts us in conflict with other people. And when you are in unhealthy conflict with others, you are in conflict with God. And maybe you're asking the question, well, why? Why am I in conflict with God? Because on a spiritual, even on a cosmic level, human beings are created in the image of God of all creation. So they matter. And Jesus identifies this at the heart of Jesus identifies this as the heart of the matter. What comes out of us, if not resolved, not understood, not processed, not monitored, can put us in conflict with people. And God is concerned with how we treat people. When my family came to Canada, I was just turning 11. I was very young, and we didn't have very much. It was very hard age to look different, right? And because we didn't have very much, I looked kind of different. Kids this age in general want to fit in above all else. And I would consistently compare myself to others, to what other people had and what I didn't have. Like, for example, my clothes were not stylish because most of them were donations that we received when we came to Canada, which were, and all of these donations, if I'm honest, were about a decade behind in style. My shoes were donated from church members, or they were bought on a big sale at Zellers. Do you remember Zellers? It was really hard because I felt like I stood out and I did not fit in. Now, back then, Nike shoes were a big deal. And my boys tell me they're still kind of a big deal today. And it seemed everybody I knew had Nike shoes except me. I was so envious of all my classmates. And envy began to undermine my own behavior. Now, for me, what envy did was it took charge and told me some very ugly things to my heart. That I, first of all, was not good enough. There was something wrong with me. And secondly, from my heart, I made ugly assumptions about other people. It put me automatically at conflict with myself and with others. I would begin to think that each person who had what I so badly wanted was actually a bad person. They don't deserve these things. They're spoiled. I would create these stories of conflict. I would create these stories of hate because of my envy. All of that envy and conflict without the person doing anything to me or even knowing that I was deeply angry and envious of them. The emotion of envy can be so destructive. I love this definition of envy by Aristotle. Plus, I sound super smart if I quote him. Aristotle defined envy this way. He saw envy as pain at the sight of another's good fortune, stirred by those who have what we ought to have. Look at the assumption here. Someone else's good fortune is pain for you, pain for me, pain for us. King Solomon, who is considered one of the wisest kings of Israel, if not of all time, said it this way: a heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones. Man, isn't that so true? Envy rots the bones. Here's what this means. Unchecked, unmonitored, envy can rot us to the core and lead us to opposition with others who even have no idea that we're competing with them or contending with them. And when we're contending with others, we either become arrogant because we are outperforming that person who has no idea we're even competing with them, or we become discouraged, frustrated because we are not able to keep up with the competition. All the while, the other person has no clue that we hold these kinds of feelings towards them. We enter a self-destructive cycle that eats us up from the inside. Envy rots the bones. But envy can also be a clue to the motivations within us that must be monitored and managed. When we feel envy, it is a deep question within our soul asking, why do I believe I'm lacking? What is it in my life that I'm missing? What or where does my worth come from? Solomon gives us an answer to these questions and a way to monitor and understand our feelings of envy. He says this, and I saw that all toil and all achievement spring from one person's envy of another. This too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Think about this. This is written 3,000 years ago, but strikes us as just as relevant today. This is the human nature. Solomon is observing that people are comparing themselves to each other and working to outperform each other in order to compete. Solomon is driving at something important for us here. People are determining their worth based on other people's perceived success. I mean, this sounds familiar, right? Like this strikes a chord with us. It strikes a chord with me, and it's ridiculous, but we do it. And Solomon points out this comparison is meaningless. Or as other translations of the Bible have him say, instead of meaningless, maybe a little better understanding of the word is actually fleeting. It's like a vapor. It's fleeting. We think what others have will fulfill us, make us, determine us, get us somewhere in life. And even when we get it, even when we achieve it, it's actually just like grasping at fog. It's vapor. It's meaningless. It's fleeting and it's gone. I know my shoe example is a little bit silly, but it was real, and it was real to my little heart. And my emotions because of envy became very ugly. And I worked different jobs and I saved money and I was trying to find a way. And I was so ecstatic when I was able to see a used pair of Nikes on sale and they were in decent condition. And I could actually afford them. So I bought them and I felt that I made it. I would finally fit in. And you know, that feeling lasted for a little while. But you know what comes next, right? The feeling like vapor was gone. And there was something else to fill the envy void in my heart. It's like the thing we think about and we know if we just have it, all things will be better. We'll be more successful. We'll be more beautiful, more charming, more wanted, more accepted, more fill in the blank. The feeling was fleeting. And that feeling is fleeting for all of us. We all want that thing, right? Or that house or that job. And we think about it constantly and we check it online and we dream how awesome it would be if we would just have it. But when we get it, if all our envy was placed in that one thing, or our satisfaction only lasts for a while, it's like a vapor. It is fleeting. It is meaningless. It does not fulfill us. It rots to the bone. Let's take a look what Solomon goes on to say about envy. And look what he's drawing out in his passage here. He says, it's a chasing after the wind. Isn't that a powerful metaphor? It's fleeting. It's like a vapor. It's chasing the wind. It's endless. There's no finish line. There's no peace. There's no contentment. There's always the chase and never the satisfaction. There's never any contentment in this chase. You are discontent with others and yourself. If envy takes charge of you, envy steals contentment from you. Envy controls our contentment when envy is in control. We are either led by a never-ending pursuit or we are stopped dead in our tracks, saying, I'm not good enough and I can never do this. Look at what Solomon says next. This is such a powerful metaphor. He says, fools fold their hands and ruin themselves. When envy is in charge, we either chase the wind, never content, step on others to get ahead of them, get into competitions without people even knowing we're in competition with them, or we give up. If I can't have any of the things others have, why should I even try? I will never be like that. And you can fill in the blank for whatever that is for you. What Solomon is driving at here is there has to be a better way. So he brings it all together for us. He says, better one handful with tranquility than two handfuls with toil and chasing after the wind. Again, what a great metaphor. It is better to be content, to be at peace, to do what you were created to do. It's better to have one thing in peace than having more and losing yourself to chasing something you were never designed to do. Less in this metaphor is actually more when it leads to contentment, because the result is peace. And when we are at peace, we are at peace with others. And when we are at peace with others, we are at peace with God. Grasping and striving or giving up are both ways envy takes charge of us, destroying us and destroying others around us. Look, Solomon goes on and he says, again, I saw something meaningless under the sun. There was a man all alone. He had neither son nor brother. There was no end to his toil, yet his eyes were not content with his wealth. For whom am I toiling, he asked. Why am I depriving myself of enjoyment? This too is meaningless, a miserable business. This guy we see in this story was healthy and was doing more and more, and he has so much. But when he stopped, he asked, for whom am I toiling? What's really driving me? What am I trying to prove? And who am I trying to prove this to? What an important question for us to ask. In answering the question honestly, we will begin to understand envy and its root motivations. Who am I doing this for? Who am I doing this for? Look, I know many of us can quickly and defensively respond, I'm doing this for my family. But pause for a moment. Really? Your family every morning is pumped for you to leave, not come back till late hours of the night, be stressed, anxious, and angry? Really? That's what they want from you? Or do they just want you? Or maybe there's a deeper answer to that question. Are you internally competing with somebody and they have no idea you're in a competition with them? And in this toiling, you are alienating the people for whom you're doing this for. Notice what Solomon says. And why am I depriving myself of enjoyment? I'm not even enjoying myself. What's the point of this? Why am I doing this? I love my family and friends, but I don't even spend time with them. He had it all, and he couldn't even enjoy it. What an incredible story. Solomon says, this too is meaningless and a miserable business. Oh man. Solomon says, you will never achieve what you were meant to achieve when you chase after the wind. You will compare yourself to others if you compete with others. If you want to have what everyone else has, or if you give up, you will never achieve what you were meant to achieve. Now let's go back to Solomon's teaching that we started with. A heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots to the bones. Finding peace and purpose in who we are and who we are designed to be, even with less, is so much better than chasing the wind. Finding peace and purpose in who you are and who you are designed to be, even with less, is so much better than chasing the vapor or the wind. Envy and competing will rot to the bone. In other words, you cannot compete or compare your way to peace. You can't do it. You have been given a gift and a purpose. And in that gift and purpose, you can help and care for others and yourself. But when you step outside of that, when you step outside of that calling, when you desire what others have, you will chase the wind and it will be meaningless. So the question remains, for whom are you doing this for? What a powerful question. As Christians, we were called to run a race. That is to live with meaning and purpose in new humanity that takes the teachings and life of Jesus very seriously. When we look at that life, when we see what our lifestyle we're called into, that Jesus invites us to love others. This is our lane. This is our life. The gifts you have as a teacher, spouse, cook, care worker, small business owner, parent, engineer, artist, doctor, IT, builder, nurse, friend, whatever it is, use that gift to love others. And don't misunderstand. Know your gift, grow it, develop it, use it, invest it, but do it all to love others. Stop chasing the wind, because it will rot you to the bone. It'll bring nothing but meaninglessness, fleeting hope, and destruction. Stop envying by monitoring your motivations and your emotions, by asking the hard, self-reflective questions of who you are and what and who are you doing this for. The only person we can compare ourselves to, is who we were yesterday. So when envy rises up, we need to check this emotion. We need to monitor this emotion. Would you say this with me today, wherever you are again? Envy, you are not in charge of me. In this time, we need to ask, who am I? Who am I doing this for? What is this all about? If you're one to explore the questions of who you are and who you're doing this for, here at Circle, we are offering Alpha Online. Would you consider joining us online for this free online course to wrestle with the questions of life and meaning with us? A link will come up in the chat window, so please consider joining our team in the important conversation of life, God, and meaning. Now, another option is circle groups. Our circle groups are for anyone seeking authentic community and spiritual growth. And what happens in circle groups is that friendships are formed, meals are shared, fun is had, and relationships are built for good. Now, this looks a little different with COVID, but many of our groups are continuing to meet on Zoom, encouraging one another and caring for our community. If you're interested in circle groups, click on the link in the chat. So please consider these two great options, Alpha Online and circle groups. Now, would you say it again with me? Envy, you are not in charge of me. Friends, we need to check envy and remind ourselves who we are, that we are more than chasing the wind, that we are made with purpose and love, and in that we can find peace, even peace beyond understanding. Would you pray with me? God, would you help us to seek you? Help us to see your work around us and help us to join you. Help us be content in what you give in our life and help us offer peace and love to our neighbors. Amen.
Thanks, Pastor Paul, and thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed it. We want to encourage you to keep the conversation going. So plan an online meetup with your circle group and post a picture using the hashtag CircleYXE online, or connect with a friend this week. If you haven't heard, we're having a book giveaway. All you have to do is go and listen to our latest podcast on our Facebook page, and there you'll find out how you can win a copy of Pete Cesaro's Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. Thanks again for joining us. We hope you have a great rest of your Sunday.